respectfully ask, why is this committee only composed of Democrats?
I'm glad you asked, because no Republicans participated. No, you're not part of the thing. You're welcome to be here as a spectator. Thank you very much.
Well, what happens when the government labels you a criminal before you've ever been charged? Because that's never happened before in America. When the narrative is written before anything can be explained and justice is expected just to follow magically later. Yeah, folks, I'm Ann Vandersteel, and this is Steel News, and we are still in the fifth generation war zone. Tonight's guest knows that question not as a theory, because he's lived it as his life experience. Adam Villarreal was once an artist, an entrepreneur, and just, like you and me, an everyday American who found himself swept into the aftermath of January 6th. Not as a rioter, not as an organizer, but as a man who refused to disappear quietly when the story being told about him didn't match the truth. Labeled a January 6th defendant, placed on federal wanted lists, and forced into the life on the run, Adam became something the system didn't expect. A witness who wouldn't stop asking questions. Rather than vanish, he documented. Rather than comply with silence, he spoke out. And rather than accept the official narrative, he walked directly into the January 6th hearing just the other day, as I just showed you before we came in on live, and asked the question that nobody else would. Tonight, we're going to move from being wanted and on the run to wanting answers. Adam, it's great to have you with me. Thanks so much for joining me today. And, I got to tell you, that was a bold move you made the other day when you went in while everybody else was out marching in D.C. and getting together and, sharing camaraderie. You walked into the Lions Den. What was that like?
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Ann. And I got to tell you, they were not pleased that their dog and pony show was interrupted. There was a very hard line narrative there, a lot of very escalated rhetoric, even from what we had been seeing on CNN. And I think they figured that they would allow their narrative to go unchecked.
You authored a book, right? It's called Capital Punishment, a J6 fugitive story. This was your firsthand account of life being labeled a domestic extremist in our country. And, while you were on the run, you also launched a show, 1600 Unscripted. I got to tell you, that takes some serious cojones, right? Because, I can put your face right up here. You were on right here. They were looking for you. Why is it coming up? Here we go. There you are. J6. This was Newsweek. They had your face. Your face was blasted everywhere. You were on the FBI's wanted list.
Yeah, unfortunately, they really put it out there after Trump won the election in that time between November and January when he was sworn in and the pardon shortly thereafter. They were intensely looking for people, and they were arresting people even up to a few days before just to prove a point.
I know it was incredible. And the sedition hunters, that group of people, what a group of thugs. You would have thought that they, had never seen corruption anywhere. But I guess when you are manufactured from the corruption and you are set out to be corrupt, to hunt those that they are standing up to the corruption, I guess it just kind of goes without saying, right? So this show that you ran and still do, 1600 Unscripted, you are looking at the power levers. You're looking at the control of the narrative that's running around out there. You're looking at the erosion of our Constitution. And you're also looking at the cost, the human cost, I would say, of political persecution, because you've lived it. Where are you today? Because I've interviewed you a few times, and your show now is standing on, it's got its own legs. And like I said, you did what others didn't. You walked into the Lions Den and confronted them.
Well, and I just felt like it was so important. Camaraderie is a very sacred thing. It's an important thing, but it's also important to go take risks, calculated risks, and to inside of the law. I wanted to show people right in the heart of their narrative that Trump released a crime wave on America by pardoning the J6ers, that we're all outrageous thugs. We're all ill-spoken, ill-mannered, terrible people. Well, I wanted to show them that we can also put on a suit and tie and be respectful and engage in the democratic process.
Well, it's something that I think we're trying to do, and I'm seeing more and more Americans doing it, and it's really encouraging. But because again, this is the this is where we are in this country right now. President Trump is one man. He's got a couple of good people around him. And then I think he's got a bunch of boobs, to be honest, that are, I listened to Owen Schroyer just before we went live, and he was railing on Pam Bondi and Kristi Noem, basically saying they're useless, calling them bimbos in the White House, which, take it for whatever you want. But that's where America is in a lot of aspects. They're just fed up with what's going on right now. So let's take us back, because before J6, I don't know if people know who you were and how J6 radically changed your life overnight. Give us sort of a walk in the park, or a day in the life of Adam Villarreal before January 6th. And let's talk about the evolution today and what your mission is.
Sure. I was an artist. I loved to travel. I had my own life. And I did investigative journalism as a hobby on the side. And I had been covering Stop the Steal and COVID disparity. In the liberal cities, everything was locked down tight, but you went out to small Republican towns and there was no restrictions at all. And seeing that firsthand just changed everything for me. I saw people suffering, people losing their livelihoods during COVID. And then the repercussions of what we thought then could have been a stolen election. And as time went on, we saw more and more evidence to support that, culminating in everyone showing up on J6 and trying to represent for their nation, for their freedom, for their country as patriots. So it was that change. It was watching the liberal government under Biden crack down on the American people that really motivated me to move to DC and take up activism full time.
Wow, that's a big, big decision. So from January 6th, you got labeled a domestic terrorist, basically without any due process, as did I, as did many other people who were in DC that day, and it became life on the run for you. What is being on the run actually look like in America today? Because you managed to launch a podcast, and I don't want to give the FBI any grace, but they couldn't find the pipe bomber, and then they magically found one. They couldn't, really come and track you down so well in your podcasting. So what was that like?
Well, first thing I want to say is I respect law enforcement, and I think people should follow the law. I felt myself in an extenuating circumstance where my government had become tyrannical. And the whole point I talked about with my younger brother, who I kept in contact with over the 4 years, that if we could just make it through somehow on the other side, then we could be an example to other people. You don't have to be violent. You don't have to cause chaos. If you can just dissent, if you can just disagree, say that I'm not going to put up with this, and to the best of my ability, I'm going to not participate. That's the type of thing, the message that I wanted to send. That's why I stood up in Congress and was so polite. When they asked me to sit down, I did. They told me that I could stay. And funnily enough, it shows where we're at in this country, that for the cameras, they'll tell you can stay, but then the police will come tap you on the shoulder and escort you all the way out of the building to the sidewalk. It just goes to show you how much we are sliding in the democratic process in this country.
Yeah. So Adam, when you walked in there, did anybody recognize you?
No, and the strange thing, it must have been a God thing. If you looked up on the internet, it showed that the meeting was actually going to be in the 390 room in the Cannon House building.
Right.
That was not true. I showed up there a few minutes early, and the lights were off and the doors were locked. And so I just started asking reporters in the rotunda, hey, do you know where this is? You know where this is? I'm trying to go observe it. And someone was kind enough to say, yeah, they moved it last minute. And I was able to walk over there and gain entry. And no one recognized me. And they actually sat me directly next to Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, and Adam Kinzinger, and the congresswoman from Connecticut.
So tell us did you have an exchange with him while you were sitting next to them at all?
No, I felt it was important to just come in, speak my piece respectfully, and depart. I didn't want anyone getting anything confused, to clipping up anything. He came, he was threatening, he was none of that. I just wanted to go and speak my piece and not have any other engagement. But I could definitely tell it was something that was unexpected. It was something that was unwelcome. They had a real narrative factory going in there. They had Pam Hemphill, who is sympathetic to their narrative. They had people talking about theirs. But one thing that really struck me is the total removal of anything that could be construed as positive. We all know from the work that you've done on your show and work that I've done on my show that there were a lot of people that helped the police. There was a lot of people that helped their fellow citizen who might have been injured or was trapped. And there were so many stories of positivity that day, but you didn't see one drop of it in that committee hearing.
So, talk to me about the narrative, because what we're hearing coming back out of that J6 hearing is that they're not done with their persecution. They're not done coming after anybody that was either at the Capitol that day or is considered a political dissident, which would obviously mean you and me, because we speak out about the tyranny coming out of Washington, D.C. and the corruption. I've got a press conference on it on Monday, and I could do a press conference every day of the week about different areas of corruption in Washington, D.C. and state governments for that fact. There's no shortage of corruption. So what is the narrative they're whipping up there? And how do you think they're going to be able to be successful at it? Will they be successful at this narrative that'll turn the judicial tyranny right back on us?
I don't think so, Anne, and I'll tell you why. Because it's up to each and every one of us to participate in the system. If something is coming for you and you see it and you fear it and you don't like it, well, then as an American, that is your civic duty to do something about it respectfully, lawfully, but to keep that pressure on. The narrative that I heard when I was present, when they thought that no one was there to dissent, was that people need to be hunted down, that this is not done, that they are coming for all of us, that Trump released a crime wave upon this nation. They cherry-picked some of the people who have gotten in trouble in J6 after J6 for unrelated issues, and they bring that to the fore to try to smear everyone, that we're all thugs and criminals, simpletons, not intelligent people who love America and want to engage in the civic process.
So when you were there, were you shocked at all by the response that you got from Benny Thompson?
No, I can't say that it was. I had assumed that he would meet me with an evasive answer or meet me with something that wasn't entirely true. And if you look at his statement that no Republicans wanted to attend, no GOP members, that's not accurate. It was a meeting for Democrats, only with people who were sympathetic. And to me, on either sides, if the Republicans had a meeting like that, I would also be dissenting that as well. We've departed so far from the politics of my great-grandfather's day, from civic responsibility, from if something bad is happening, you might have to go put yourself in some type of lawful, legal risk in the public eye, risk to your career, risk to the public opinion. It's that ability, it's that courage that all of us have, that anyone can do, that is going to push back, that's going to prevent that narrative from moving forward. Something as simple as asking a dissenting question, you can see how it rippled through the room. And I encourage everyone to get out there and do the same, lawfully, legally.
So President Trump issued an extraordinary amount of pardons on the day he was inaugurated. Do you think that's enough, or is there a deeper reckoning that is needed right now in this country?
No, I think there's a deeper reckoning. There are many people, and if I could take a moment, Chris
Please.
Worrell, a good friend of mine, he was denied cancer treatment while he was incarcerated.
I know.
And he's still struggling with cancer today. He actually has a
wonderful man. His wife and he are truly wonderful people. Sorry, I just had to express that.
He has a give, send, go. If anybody wants to look him up and support him, he is a great patriot, and he's still struggling with these medical problems because people are being discriminated against. I've had people on my show many, many times. They get fired from jobs without cause. People that are even being banned from something as simple as Uber, all because they had news articles put out about them, about J6, and that still sticks to this day. There were egregious due process violations that moving forward, we have to address, because if they could do it to us, ladies and gentlemen, they could do it to you, and they will. That's how the slippery slope works.
So let's talk about Tina Peters, another, I should say political prisoner. She's now well over a year in prison. Her health is failing. She's really, really struggling. She has been pardoned by the president, and she's still locked up. There's still some J6ers that are still locked up or had to go back to prison. Absolutely. Of all things. It's ridiculous. So, from where you're sitting, Tina Peters exposed exactly what we all knew had happened, and which is why we were there redressing grievances with Congress to say, stop counting. You've got to go and do your due diligence, put a pause on that. No need to settle the score right now. Let's go and do the research, go back to the states and let's do the proper investigation. But they didn't want to do it. Mike Pence didn't want to do it, clearly. So talk to me about, how you feel about Tina, and where do you think Tina's road is going to lead?
You brought up something so important earlier, that Trump is a great president and he's a leader that we can support and get behind, but that there's a lot of people who are questionable in the administration, rhinos and people who have found their way in to sabotage and cause problems. I think the way that you can square the circle out there, because a lot of people have asked these questions, Tina is this great patriotic hero. Why isn't she out? Well, friends, she's not out because you need to get out there. We need to protect our commander in chief. These bad actors in the administration, we need to bring these things up to the administration. We've got to protect our president. And it's up to you. It's part of your civic responsibility to do this investigative work, to be skeptical, to ask questions and say, how can I protect my president?
So let's take that one step further, because we're all screaming for accountability. And sadly, there's influencers out there that are condemning those of us screaming for accountability. It's kind of silly. But, if they're going to condemn us for screaming for accountability, perhaps they could show us how we actually attain it. And one of the ways you attain it is doing exactly what you're talking about. Well, let's take it one step further, Adam, because, right now you were there on Tuesday. I'm going on Sunday and Monday, and we'll be doing a big press conference and going to the DOJ and going to Congress and delivering information and having some meetings and so on and so forth. But it's got to be more. There's got to be another avenue that we can use to put the pressure on, because we're exposing the crimes. We're showing them with evidence, all kinds of evidence on how they're being criminal. And yet they still control the levers of power. So what do you suggest the American people do? And in concert with that, what are you seeing this administration doing that might actually work in concert with the efforts that people on the ground are doing, the true essence of the government, we the people? Do you see some synergies coming together, some of the moves President Trump is making, perhaps the National Guard being installed, 500 men or women in a unit in all 50 states? What do you see going on that's giving you some encouraging signs that we might actually be able to thwart Goliath?
I think the administration is trying very hard, especially President Trump. If you look at the moves that were done involving single-family houses being owned by large firms, particularly BlackRock and Vanguard, look at that announcement that Carolyn Levitt made just a few moments before the end of the press conference. You watch stock tumble right after that from people who thought that this was going to go on forever, that these large multinationals were going to basically strip by single-family unit neighborhoods, and it was going to price the average American out of the market. There's a lot of anxiety out on social media about these issues, but you can see the administration directly just did something about it. And it's those type of actions that are so extremely fought back against by these multinationals, by these big corporations. That's what we have to help with, because they are hamstrung. They're dealing with a hostile Democratic Party. They're dealing with a hostile portion of the GOP who's rhinos. And so how can you just expect these people who only have 24 hours in a day, who are fighting for this country, to do it all by themselves? They can't. And I think moving forward, the synergy that I see is young and old uniting. I see a tremendous energy in Generation Alpha, in that 15 to 20-year-old demographic. And they feel ripped off a lot by what has been perpetrated against them by the Biden regime, by a lot of these institutions that have kind of been ingrained in the fabric of our society that aren't America first.
Do you
And
have
I see the elderly who are also a similar sentiment, starting to feel, what did I do with my life? Was there purpose? Was there meaning? That wisdom can be combined with that energy from the younger generations. When you're my age, when you have kids and a mortgage and a house, it's so tough. Ann, it's so tough to look outside of yourself and your own life. But those people who are a little younger and a little older, they have such energy. They have such zeal for this country. And I think if we can borrow a page from our opponents, look at the community organizing that Obama done, look at some of the success that the left has had in bringing people together, not with the statement, not the message, but the mechanism. And if we could bring those two groups together, I think you would start to see a lot of traction.
So do you see yourself going into a future in politics at some point? Because you certainly speak like a politician, but not one that's been slimed by the swamp, somebody who's genuinely concerned and would act selflessly on behalf of their fellow Americans.
I'm trying to make my way in, Anne. I don't think right away I know enough. I think you have to be very knowledgeable to be a politician, or else you're doing a disservice to your community.
Wait,
So
I want to press you on that. Knowledgeable about what? I just listened to you talk about how how this government is supposed to be run. You went and challenged a bunch of slime balls and doing J6 hearings that are plotting and planning with their law firms that have had their national security license and clearances taken away by President Trump. And they've got a list of 10,000 people, probably your name and my name are on there probably, along with a lot of other folks like General Flynn and others, Trump, et cetera, where they're going to come after us and they're going to call us treasonous traitors and they're going to, look for us to swing in a public square somewhere. So what makes them more knowledgeable than you? They're clearly criminals and they're probably quite intelligent at criminal behavior, but you're talking about basics. You're talking about, the foundation of our country was founded, in biblical principles. The first 10 amendments are very much rooted in the Bible. I mean, this is not, I don't think, something that's above or out of your grasp when it comes to your comprehension. So why not consider something like that?
It's something that I have to discuss very closely with my wife. Real quick, I just want to give a
Get her
shout
on
out.
here. Go grab her and put her on the camera. Let's ask.
She's not here right now, unfortunately.
Okay.
But I want to say what an amazing, wonderful, supportive woman she's been. She took it upon herself to go on the run with me when she was a completely free citizen, and that takes guts. That takes grit. That's a special type of woman. And I want to make sure that I'm thinking about her in any decision that I make. I would love it if I could make an impact in this country. It's something that I've dreamed about, but I also see what happens. As soon as you engage in the political system, the money starts coming in, the influence starts coming in. You have to get right with the party line. You have to get right with the mainstream narrative. And I hold something that I think is special right now. I don't make any money for my show. Nobody pays me. This is all out of my own pocket and something that I took upon myself to do. And therefore, I'm not beholden to a producer. And
Right.
if everyone was able to take a little piece of that, even just in your local grassroots, if you have a city councilman who's corrupt, if you have a local sheriff that's corrupt, you are not helpless. You can use AI tools. You can use community organizing to get out there and make a difference in your own community.
And you are doing that. You are providing, solutions for people that are in a jam and in a legal jam at that. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because that was one of the things that was very fascinating when I interviewed you the last time. And I thought, wow, how entrepreneurial and how generous. I mean, this is what it is, public service. You are acting as a citizen of the government with the services you're providing. And you're not asking for monetization. You're just saying, hey, these are things we can do. And you know what? It's reciprocation, right? It's reciprocal. People are helping you. You're helping them. This is how we govern together. So tell us about that, because I think what you're doing is quite fascinating. And you are using AI in a positive way.
Anne, I think it's the people that don't really want to do it, but know that they have to do it are the people that move the needle. I'm sure you yourself feel that way on some days.
Some days you just don't want to turn on the camera. You just want to stay in your PJs. I get it.
Right. But if we look back to the story of Cincinnatus, which is part of our founding mythology, the Senate had to come beg him 3 times to come assume leadership because he was the right guy for the job, but he really didn't want to do it. And when he assumed leadership, you had a period of stability in Rome for another 50 years. And I think eventually, however it shakes out, it's going to be something like that. There's going to be a large organic movement coming from the people who are just tired of not getting what they voted for, not getting what they want. And the people that don't really want to do it are going to be pushed to the fore and say, well, for all of us, for your family, for my family, would you please go do this? And I think that's a far cry from someone who desperately needs to be up there for the money, for the fame, for the cameras, for the hey.
Yeah.
It's a whole different world. And that being said, that's why AI is so exciting to me. You have these incredible tools that our opponents plan to use against us, but they had to field test them on it to make sure that they work. And so you have this incredible, very exciting experience. A lot of people say that it's so dark, but I think it's the opposite. You have access to the most powerful tools ever in human history, and you can use them privately to your own effect to help fight corruption, to help lift up good candidates. And we're doing that by just staying ahead of the curve on the news and bringing people the latest tools and trying to do it at no charge.
So let's do a quick sort of relative news right now. I want to play a couple clips. I want to get your feedback on them because you're out there doing the news. You've got your show 1600 Unscripted. It's on your X page, and we'll show that here in a minute. But I want to get your thoughts on. Let's first just sort of rewind to Venezuela. Here's somebody out of Australia.
Just putting it out there for President Trump and the US of A. Most people in Australia just want to point out that, we have probably the most gold deposits and oil deposits in the world, along with silver, lithium, uranium. We've got pretty much most of the world's natural resources here in Australia. The other thing we do have is Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. So we won't discourage an invasion. We certainly don't have the arms to hold off any of your SEAL Team 6. So, you know what I mean? Come on over. Come on.
That the world views what we did in Venezuela as a positive for the Venezuelan people. Do you think it's going to be a positive for the Americans? Is it going to be a positive for world peace? What is your interpretation of what went down?
So this is where I think it's so important for people to have engagement. You've got to go read, you've got to go research, and it's interesting. It was one man's opinion, but you can tell that that gentleman lived through Howard Springs. He lived through his country being locked down by COVID. He was facing real tyranny. He lived through a gun confiscation by about the age that he looked. And so there are a lot of people that are upset all over the world with the deep state, with the cabal stretching its tentacles out over the world. And I think they're so hopeful for anyone to come help them, because a lot of people, you can see the unrest in the streets in Europe, you can see it all over the world. People aren't exactly sure what to do. They don't know who they can trust. But you can get there with the help of your friends. If all of you are researching together, if you're all checking each other's work, you start to come to consensus. You start to come opinions that aren't just fed to you, by mainstream media. And I think in that way, we're going to build communities that are interested in growth, that are interested in reestablishing a narrative that's more truthful moving into the future. We all want peace. We all want to see the economy improve. I think most of all people want to see the economy improve. And I'm looking forward to see how the administration is going to play this to help boost the economy all over the world, not just for the United States.
Well, speaking of boosting economy, we've got to get to the midterms. This is President Trump. It's a quick clip, but I want you to listen to this and get your reaction.
But you got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, they'll find a reason to impeach me. I'll get impeached. We don't impeach them. You know why? Because they're meaner than we are. We should have impeached Joe Biden for 100 different things.
Well, we should have. Is he right? Will they impeach him?
I think they're going to try. Based upon the rhetoric that I was seeing in that meeting, I think they are in a full sprint to try to put us all back in prison and hound us for the rest of our lives. And that's why this is such an important issue, folks. That's why you've got to get out there and vote and do your civic duty, because everything that was built can be dismantled just as quickly. You know, you can watch every bit of progress that we've made completely be taken apart. And I don't want that. You don't want that. But it's going to take more than just watching your television.
That's right. I want to go through the chat right now because some folks, I think we've got Chris Worrell in the chat right there. We the people must stand. And he's got Donald Trump, as he stated many times, he can't do it without us. He's right. Chris, I don't know if you saw this, but Mr. Wonderful posted this in the chat. There are 2 cures for cancer, fenbendazole, and of course, ivermectin, menbendazole, and he's got another compound here, dichloroacetate, DCA. I highly recommend William Mackis, by the way, Chris, if you're watching this, go check out Dr. William Mackis. He's got over, I think, 7,000 cancer patients that he's treating using these compounds. And he's not telling people to get off chemo and all the other Western-based medicine, but he is using these other compounds very effectively. So I wanted to just pull this podcast over to the side of the road and just kind of focus in on Chris because you brought it up. And it's important. And I see look at him. Very funny, Chris. We're not talking about me, but he wants you to run. There you go, Adam. He says he wants you to run.
Well, so if I could just take a second, if you guys want to support the Worrell family, go to GiveSendGo/PatriotBro, all capital letters, Patriot Bro, one word. He's a great man. He was denied cancer treatment while he was incarcerated. I want to repeat that. That could happen to you. You could be on the wrong side of politics and people could be playing partisan games with your life. And that's why I think it's so important for people to engage in these issues.
That's right. And speaking of Give, Send, Goes, you're out on the road. You are, somebody who's, like you said, you're not taking payments for the work that you're doing. But I think it's important that folks consider supporting you as well. So this is your Give, Send, Go, and you can find it. It's Homeland House Foundation. I love that. It's helping keep a roof over your head, because you are out pretty much every single day beating the street. And you say you drive an hour into DC to go and do this work for free, to just get America educated as to what's really going on?
I try to as much as I can. Obviously, I have my own life. I have a family. I still have to take care of my own affairs. But I try to do this as much as possible. I had a feeling that they were eventually going to come for us again. And so I had a choice: lay down and just wait quietly and hope, or try to get to the forefront and become a public figure and try to help as many people as possible, because that makes it harder to point at all of us and say that we're so terrible, we're so bad. Well, I'm trying not to be. We've had good success with Homeland House. We've had quite a few J6ers come and stay in DC with us at no charge.
Amazing.
We put them up, we feed them. If they want to go down to Capitol Hill, I'll show them how to go in and respectfully, lawfully go and do activism, hold signs. And in that way, we've gotten a lot of people here. It's prohibitively expensive to come and stay in hotels here. So we're just trying to make it more accessible for people.
That's a fact. I'm not going to lie. When I go up there, I'm like, oh, but you know what? At the end of the day, what is the point of having any of this money if you're going to have a country that is now going to take it from you anyway? And we're seeing examples of that, where they're taking your money every single day in different ways through different agencies and different industries. And Capitol Hill is no different. They are just a giant vacuum for our dollars, and they're stealing it, and we're paying for it, which is just absolute insanity. Adam, I appreciate you coming by. I want you to kind of riff for a little bit and sort of let people in America know, give them some marching orders, some instructions. I mean, besides standing up and speaking out, give us some detail down at the local level. What can people actually do that's going to make a difference and get them feeling like they're part of the process, so that we're going to start getting some of these bad actors out of our way. We got to elbow them out, but we got to show up to do it.
Absolutely, Ann. So for everyone out there, here's a direct, actionable strategy you can use to start civically engaging and get some accountability on your local level. A lot of people wish that they had a knowledgeable friend to be by their side, to be their comrade in these fights. But people get scared, people have lives, and they can't be there for you to do that. Well, with prompting and with AI, you can. And by telling an AI of your choice, I prefer Gemini or Grok, or you could, there's many, many, many others. You can say, drop into the role of my political consultant in my hometown and my state. These are the issues that I am facing, and I am trying to engage in the civic process and bring accountability to these bad actors who I think are operating against the public interest in my location. And just like that, pop like a genie, your friend is going to be prompted into existence. You can then modify that prompt. You can feed it information, local court documents, local newspaper articles, and you now have a friend that doesn't get tired, that never gets impatient, that will work with this on you for free every single day if you use one of the free options. If you pay as little as $20 a month, you now have the option to plug in Google Drives, and you can take giant reams of paperwork. If you're watching your mayor do something dirty and he's trying to hide it in 10,000 pages of boring local paperwork, well, you can't handle that, but your AI friend can, and they are devoted to your cause. And you can do that for almost free or no money. I would encourage everyone to get out there and do that simple thing. Everything that I've done is based upon those building blocks, and there's not really any way to dismantle it. That's a very simple legal thing that anybody can do, and it causes these people just a great degree of headache. And I would encourage you all to go out there and get some.
Well, that is great advice, Adam. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I really mad respect for the work that you're doing. It's not thankless because the right people are seeing it. They're getting the information they need. And at the end of the day, you're serving. And that's really what we're here to do. So, take care of ourselves, take care of our fellow man, and certainly stand up to tyranny. God didn't put people on the planet to be ruled by, tyranny. That's not why we're here. And I think America and the rest of the world is really radically waking up to that quickly. In fact, the Iranians today, I just saw, have burned their first government building down. I'm not advocating for violence or for any such behavior here in this country, but I'm just saying they have really been under the gun for a long time. No thanks to our CIA, I might add. The tyranny they face over there is from the color revolution we ran with MI6, the CIA, and Mossad. And we've installed the bad actors all around the world, and they're trying to do it here. So, Adam Villarreal, it won't happen here because people like you are walking amongst us. And for that, I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
And yourself. And thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. And please give my best to your wife, and hopefully she'll join us sometime when she's around.
All righty. Take care.
You got it. Great guy, really just tremendous. What a lovely man. I had the pleasure of getting to talk to him a little bit when I was doing a press conference at the DOJ. I don't know if he'll be in DC. I should have asked him before he left. But hopefully on Monday, I know we're going to have a fantastic turnout. We've got a very, very big press conference coming. I'm going to be talking at 6 o'clock. In about 20 minutes, I'll be on Pete Santilli's show. He's hosting LFA. Jeremy Harrell had to go to Mar-a-Lago today, apparently. Don't know what that's about, but Pete's standing in at LFA. I've got the Rumble link on my X profile. Just go in there. It's probably one of the top 5 or 10 tweets. And I'll be talking about MMTLP throughout much of that broadcast with Pete Santilli, because again, this overarching theft that is coming out of DC, and it's coming at the hands of the government, of the agencies, of people we never elected, is over. And like Adam is talking about, you have to stand up. Well, these folks have organized. They are governing themselves, and they are showing up in force, mad force, positive, peaceful, patriotic force, but strong and cohesive and loving and kind. These are just wonderful people. And they said, you know what? We're not going to take this. We're going to come together. And to that, they are very grateful to Elon Musk and X, because, without that platform, they would not have been able to find each other and to coordinate the way they have. So look for me if you're in DC. We'll be on F Street at 10 a.m. in front of the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission. And there's been lots of press releases. We had one that go around the world, 150 or 200 million views already. It's huge. But I expect this to be quite interesting. So stay tuned to that. And God bless you all. And we'll see you all next time. I'll be on Santilli in like 19 minutes. So don't walk away too quickly. Talk to you later. Many of you have been asking, where am I getting the energy from? Where is the glow coming from? What's changed with your hair and skin? Well, simply in the last month, I started taking a product, C60 Evo. If you go to c60evo.com/Ann Vandersteel, you too can get radiant energy, mental focus with C60 Evo's ESS 60. What is it? That is pure C60. Get that increased flexibility, immunity, and longevity. And guess what, folks? It's not only for people too. You can get some for your pets. My animals are on it now. And that's right. I'm having trouble keeping up with Vegas, my dog, who I like to go on long walks with in the morning. He is battling back on the heat down here with his C60 Evo as well. Go to c60evo.com/Ann Vandersteel and try their delicious oils that you can eat and add into salads or put on your food, and also incredible facial serums and creams that are making a massive difference in the texture and feel of my skin. c60evo.com/Ann Vandersteel.